And so it takes some time to be able to cast that vision and then to be able to coach them through it.
Yeah, little successes and not letting them pass as coachable moments for me is vital in getting everyone rowing in the same direction. If you hire somebody or you give out some awards, or you pull the assistant managers and the shift leaders out for quarterly meetings, all the little things that you do along the way, I think constant communication with your leaders is how did that work? And what are the results you saw? And as they start seeing some of these positive things happening, they buy in a little more each time. But if you don't reach out and you don't communicate and you don't talk about it, you're not sure that they recognize all those wins along the way that they're getting. And I find that buy-in that you talk about, it happens quicker if in general manager meetings or team meetings, one-on-ones, business reviews. We talk about people, we talk about our bench every time we get together, because them verbalizing that helps them realize, hey, this person is doing better. They are exhibiting better habits, more consistent processes, and that buy-in is important as new people come into the organization, that, hey, this is how we do things. People are important to us. And your team starts beating that drum and saying, these are our values. This is our mission. And that's a beautiful thing to see. That's when it's like, okay, this, it's the old A-team thing. I love it when a plan comes together.
Right.
When you start seeing that success.
I couldn't agree more. It's almost that moment that you believe what you're saying, and it's almost that moment where they believe it too, right? So it's incredibly important. So when you think about your growth plans and what you're looking towards the future for, do you have some sort of a process that you're actually using now in terms of how you're managing the pipeline of people? Do you go through formal succession planning, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, we have, and I kind of mentioned our bench planning. We have constant bench planning meetings. I'm sitting here actually looking at a list of prospective people that were in the pipeline today. Meetings with our general managers, all talking of who are their team members that they're bringing up and interested in through shift leaders, and we want about an 85% internal, 15% external mix. That's kind of, for us, the sweet spot. We're not there yet, only about 4 months into this. We're heavily external, but we've got double-digit people going through development plans to get them from where they're at to the immediate next level, to start creating that pipeline, because that internal pipeline is vital. They love the brand. They know the brand. They've got the experience in the brand. They know how we want to treat the guests, how we want to treat our team members. So we just need to teach them, some of the business acumen side of what we do. And it's absolutely not, as I was telling my guys this week, it's like, it's numbers 1, 3, 4, and 7, on your important list is this development piece, and really getting their buy-in that their time is best spent on people. Our processes are great. We have systems in place to follow up and make sure, but that's a follow-up piece when our systems are humming properly. Our time, our energy, and our excitement is spent with our people and with our guests.
Absolutely. I think that what you're doing is building in some accountability around that people pipeline, right? So I know for me, when I would sit in meetings and we'd review the bench and we would look at who's in the pipeline, and then we'd also talk about the folks that were kind of on the bubble, who's the bottom, who is the bottom 10%, and, what are we doing to coach them through that? And so the way that we did it, the real formalized process, we talked about it all the time, but we would meet twice a year and we would go through everyone, right? We go through every GM, every AGM, every kitchen manager, service manager, and also the team members with the potential to do more. And so I would start asking, like, if I saw someone's name on the list twice, more than one time in a row, of this person's not really performing well, then my question was immediately back to that area manager, back to that multi-unit leader. Like, well, what's the problem and what are we doing about it? And why haven't we done anything about it already? Right. So it really does help to build in that accountability. So I think that's really smart that you're doing that.
Yeah, I think them understanding when things, it's that good to great. When things go well, who are we praising? And when things aren't going well, what are we looking at ourselves saying, what could I be doing differently? And we've had a couple of those instances already in my experience out here in Nevada, where we had to change up how we're leading people to get the most out of them. One of the first things that I did was, when I walked in the door, I met everyone and I said, I'm going to be sending you a personality profile. I want to get to know you. And so as I got those results, it helped me identify what type of personality each one of my leaders was. So I could kind of start to formulate a plan as to how I can better lead them and engage with them, interact with them, and how they will respond, what they need from me. And when we take that level, I believe when we take that level of focus and care for our people, that we're going to lead them the way that they best want to be led, then we can start looking at ourselves and saying, did we do all we could do? And if not, then why not? And how could I do it differently?
Love it. That's awesome. Love that. So when you think about your career and you think about how you got going in this business and your career over the years, what was the moment when you look back that you realized that you wanted to be a leader? What did that look like for you?
I think for me, it started back in school, my school days with sports, and whether it was on the basketball team, if it's a close game, wanting the last shot, or, in practice, knowing plays and where everyone should be. And if one of my teammates was supposed to be, out on the wing and they weren't, why not? Where are you at? What are you doing? And I think it was just something that I gravitated to, and, just have kind of, it's what drives me. It's what wakes me up every day and gets me going is setting that vision and executing that plan. And I don't think there was just a day that said, hey, I said, hey, I want to lead an organization. It was just there.
Yeah, I think when we have those moments where we have the realization in the moment that it kind of happens, we don't always recognize it at the time. It's just with a little bit of perspective when we look back and we say, okay, this is kind of when this began. This is when the journey began for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, and I think that's really good. And I think the really exciting part of that for me, Myles, is that now you get to play that role of being kind of that beacon of light for someone else who's in this business. Because as we're talking about the people planning process and succession planning and, who are the top performers and who's on the bench, right? You're going to have a chance to influence and inspire someone to have that moment for themselves where they realize that they want to be a leader. And I think that's pretty powerful. So for sure.
Yeah. We've started taking down to the level of shift leader out and engaging them and having consistent meetings with them. And that was one of the first things that I conveyed to them was like, we're going to invest in your future, and your future may or may not be with us, but whether you say, I want to be in this organization until I retire, or I'm going to be in this organization until next year, either way, we're going to invest in your future and help you hopefully be better leaders, be better team members to the next journey that you go on.
Right.
Because that's important. We, it's like, I don't want to over dramatize what we do, but we, are very hopefully impactful in people's futures and lives. And, whether they stay or go, I take that very seriously.
Look, I think you're spot on, and I think it needs to be discussed because, I was just this morning, I was in another I was in another meeting with someone and we were talking about that very thing. Like, I think that overall in the hospitality industry, I think, I'll say restaurants, but I'll kind of expand that to overall hospitality industry. I think that it's much maligned in that people don't look at what we do, what you do, what I do as really having any real meaning, beyond that initial experience. And that's just not true, because I've seen this business change lives. It's changed my life.
Yeah,
and
correct.
It's changed the life of hundreds of people that I have been privileged enough to lead over the years. And so I think that's so important. And if you can capture that lightning in a bottle early, and if you can inspire someone at the beginning of their journey to understand that this can be a career, and it can be a career that you can be great at, and it can be a career that can provide for your family and could do far beyond what you ever think you would have ever been able to do.
Yeah, and as I kind of developed, through the years, there were so many singular moments that I looked back on. During college, I worked at Walmart, and I had a general manager of a Walmart location that one day I was stalking Valentine. I mean, it's all the way back to, it was that impactful. I was probably 19 or 20 years old, and I remember I was stocking Valentine's candy, and it was you had to reset the whole aisle and do all the stuff, and I felt like it was one of the worst jobs. When you're resetting that kind of stuff, I felt like it was one of the worst jobs in the store,
Right,
and
right.
The manager he walked by my aisle, and he was doing it at a very fast pace. He was obviously going somewhere, he wasn't on a stroll, and he stopped, and he came back, and he bent down, and he got down to where I was, and he helped me probably stock the rest of that box, and just had a quick conversation, and then off he went again. And it's like, if I can, knowing that I remember that 20 years later, that he didn't have to stop and acknowledge me when he
That's
did.
Right. Yep.
That if I can have those kind of impactful moments for people, I never know when it's going to come, that impactful moment for someone else. So
Right.
I try to make sure that when I'm in restaurants and I'm interacting with people, that I'm always aware of, could this be a moment where I cannot be focused on me and what I'm doing? I need to put that aside for a minute and focus on them and what they're doing. Can I interact with them in such a way that maybe that will be something that sticks with them for the next 20 years?
Yeah, that's really powerful. Absolutely. So when you think about leadership, Myles, and you think about everything that you've seen in your career, if you could only share one leadership tip with our listeners, like what would that tip be? What's the thing that you find yourself going back to the most whenever you're coaching people on how to be a better leader?
For me, it's truly connecting with the people that we work with.
I love that.
When I get to know them, and it goes back to whether it's a personality profile, which I think helps me get set off on the right foot and allows me to really be able to dig in and know them on a personal level. When I know what motivates them, makes them tick, what's important to them, then it helps me, hopefully helps me lead them better. Whether it's things when we recognize someone, I sent out an email, and at the time they were like, I don't know why you're doing this, but I wanted to know is what kind of gift cards they like, because I had an aha moment actually in Kansas City a couple of years ago where I carry gift cards with me and catch team members doing the right thing, and so I handed a gas gift card to he was probably an 18 or 19-year-old, and he kind of looked at it and was like, okay, thanks. And so it struck me, and so we went through a little bit of the day, and I got an opportunity. I pulled him to the side, and I'm like, you seemed less than thrilled. Is there something that is going on or whatever? And he said, well, I don't have a car. So here I am giving him a gas card, and he doesn't have a car, and he's like, okay, that didn't mean anything. And so it's like, man, I need to get to know people, because that was not impactful for him. A Nike card was going to be impactful for him, so he could get a new hat or whatever.
Right.
And so I think truly connecting with the people that we work with a